I'm a 28-year-old male. My wife just got back from an 8-week-long business trip. I found out some things I didn't want to know, and the wildest one comes at the end, and you absolutely won't believe what she's done. Throwaway for reasons. My wife is a great person, and we've always gotten along. We've been married for almost 2 years, and we've been together for 4.5 years. We're in a monogamous relationship and have both had several partners prior to our relationship. Every year, my wife goes on a long business trip, typically about 2 months. During this time, communication over the phone and email can be difficult, contingent upon the technological issues where she works. She really enjoys her work during the business trips and usually comes home feeling fulfilled and excited about life. Normally, when she comes home, she takes a day or two to rest and overcome the jet lag. 28-hour travel time and 21-hour time diff. The following days, we tend spending a lot of time together. Sex, dates, cuddling, catching up, etc. because, well, she's been gone so long. This year, she came home as her same excited self after having a good trip. In fact, she seemed so excited that she wanted to work on some projects, but would need to go get some material from the store. About 3 hours after picking her up from the airport, she says she wants to go shopping for her craft project, and that she will likely spend several hours out shopping. She really emphasizes how much time she'll need to go shopping, many hours. I think this is a little weird considering that she just came back from a 28-hour flight, hasn't slept, and she's usually not the type to spend more than an hour or two shopping. But whatever, fine. About 5 hours later, she comes home with a single bag of craft material. I register this as strange, but don't really think about it. I chalk it up taking a lot of time to pick out the materials, carefully selecting them instead of bulk buying. Over the next few days, she did not really go through the jet lag phase and stayed distant. I thought that was weird, but ended up giving her space and just focused on school. About 2 weeks post-return, we still haven't had sex, despite my advances and lightly prodding the issue. I find that strange, and since she is usually a 3 to 4 times a week kind of girl, and we've been exploring some new stuff prior to her trip, which we had talked about kindling once she returned. The first few times that she doesn't reciprocate sexy time advances, I don't think anything of it. We've always had a very open, no policy, and are attentive to one another's needs. Example, time, tired, not feeling it, need it now, after 2 weeks, the combination of her distance and the feel really off. Over the weekend, she went and met up with girls for a day out. During that time, I snooped on her computer. If that bothers you, stop reading now. We've always been extremely open with our phones and social media. We both know our phone passwords, computer passwords, and she knows my Facebook, etc. While she was out with her friends, I looked on her computer. She left her work and personal email, Reddit, and Facebook wide open. So I looked. Nothing out of the ordinary. I looked in her recycle bin though, and found that she's taken some self-nudes with her phone, sent them to her email, downloaded, then deleted them, hence the recycle bin. I thought that was odd. Normally, we would send nudes to each other, not put them on our computers. Maybe she really liked them, she did look so hot, and decides to keep them. This has my gears turning because she's been really disinterested in sex since returning. But is taking selfies in the nude wearing lingerie? I looked at the metadata on the picture and confirmed it was taken recently and that it was downloaded from Gmail. I went and looked at her Gmail. Nothing terribly odd here, but anything before 3 days after returning home had been deleted from her inbox, then deleted from the trash folder, not archived. Example, if she came home on the 1st, everything before the 4th was deleted. However, in our trash bin was a confirmation of appointment for a health clinic in an adjacent city. It had a link with a user ID to log in with the patient portal if you needed to change your appointment. I logged in with the ID and her common passwords, which I already knew from us sharing. The portal is mostly empty, but showed that she had been scheduled and kept on appointment the same afternoon that she got home from her trip. The portal allows you to request records from visits, so I did. They were delivered to the portal about 30 minutes later. She had gone in for STD testing 5 hours after coming home from an 8-week business trip. The secrecy of the whole thing really bothers me. Any ideas on how to approach this topic with my wife or other possible explanations? Update number 1. Admitted to cheating on her trip. Says only once, evidence suggests at least twice. Update 2. 3 confirmed in one trip, digging in now. Update 3. Typical, it was a one-time thing responses. It was your fault responses. Confirmed at least 3 dudes during her last trip. Likely systemic serial cheater since we've been together. Refuses to admit anything outside this business trip, even though she had a carbon copy behavior 2 years ago. Refuses to be honest and claims she wasn't going to meet anyone on her current solo camping trip. I know otherwise. Keep catching her in lies. I'm filing papers, meow. Update 4. It's at least 4 now. One of her first trip 2 years ago, hence the STD test then. Mutual friend knew about it and kept it a secret. This is days a week after we got engaged. What's up guys, Mr. Reddito here. I know, this story is wild. It doesn't end yet. I found another post from the original poster, and it goes along the lines like this. Hey folks, I'm at D-Day plus 55. I wanted to share a little bit more of a story and just talk about it. It gets a bit lonely at night, and that's when my gears start cranking without the noise the day keeps up distractions. So writing it out and clearing the air is perhaps cathartic. Wife and I have been married for 1.5 years, together for 5. We're both graduate students, and I'm working towards my PhD in genetics. She's working towards her PhD in microbiology. No kids, few assets, not much debt. Here's the backstory if you'd like some more. Luckily, we study at different schools. I'm on the West Coast where she was residing with me and working remotely, and she studies at my undergraduate institution in another state. When I found out and confronted her, she was on her way back to her school to do lab work and have committee meetings. So our communications were largely conducted via text message and email. She was too much of a coward to speak to me on the phone. I suppose the discovery of infidelity in one's relationship is shocking and painful and begins to pave an arduous road towards the penultimate reconciliation or the parsing of community property. In my case, it's been the latter. It's not the sex that bothers me. I can understand those inclinations. I'm a biologist. Attraction, emotional investment, feeling wanted, the taboo of risk, adrenaline, those things make sense to me. What I could not understand is how my wife, someone I adore and respect immensely, could lie to her affair partners about who and what I am. It's like her inner monologue flow freely for them, her true thoughts about me expressed vocally. That made me physically sick. I'm not a bad guy. I've always been there for my wife, and we've jived on every level from toilet paper orientation to politics, humor, hobbies, and all sorts of stuff. It just doesn't make sense. During the post-mortem, I've often come to realization that, as a partner on a two-way street, I could have always done more or achieved a stronger marriage. That's the sentimental part of my brain saying, quote, "Look at all those missed opportunities for communication and growth. If you really loved your wife, you would have figured it out and met her needs." That's a deadly game of roulette to play. The retrospect of what if on infinite regression plays discordantly upon the soul. If the discovery of infidelity wasn't shocking enough, I also asked my wife to reconcile. She denied. I gave her a list of demands with 7 items. The header reads, "The ground rules if you choose not to comply," or "I suspect that you failed to comply with these rules. I will divorce you. Here's an abridged version of what I asked for, the 7 steps. Number 1. You'll allow me unfettered access to your phones, accounts, devices, and computers at any time without hesitation. Number 2. You will forfeit and show me all the communications and materials of all the extramarital relations that you've engaged in, no matter how minor or how insignificant you feel they were. Number 3. You will allow me to professionally recover data from your phone and other devices. If there's something that you haven't told me yet or haven't given me the full story, this would be a good time to do so. I extend your amnesty for the other grievances notwithstanding lying. Number 4. You will contact all parties that you have engaged with, in any way, and explain that you were in a monogamous relationship and your husband now knows, and that you ducked up. You will apologize for misleading anyone about your relationship status, and you will contact their partners and explain what happened. Number 5. You will get tested for STDs and STIs every month for the next 6 months, including blood panels. This information will be made available at me by request. Number 6. You will seek and engage in cognitive behavioral therapy until you have been treated for your dysmorphia, eating disorders, and have healthy managed your sexual assaults. You and I will receive marriage counseling, infidelity, or until we both feel our problems have been resolved. We will both engage in communication, coursework, and reading. And number 7, rules for opening the relationship. Maybe too controlling. Everything that I asked her for, I also offered to reciprocate where applicable. The first bloodletting was the discovery of the infidelity, and the mortal strike was her denying me safety in the relationship through dismissal of my needs. Once it was clear that she wasn't trying to reconcile, I was ready to burn the ground. I threatened to contact her partners, contact her affair partners, significant others, file professional misconduct complaints. One AP was her physician. Contact her research board about misconduct, and contact her direct bosses, peoples whose image is jeopardized by her actions. She freaked out and suddenly became extremely receptive to what I was asking for. Begged me not to ruin her career. Begged me not to tell anyone. I felt bad. I did apologize and told her I wouldn't do that. By then, she had already gone to her bosses and conveyed some truth-trickling stories to them. I obviously added a lot more pain to the situation by playing that card. This was almost a month ago. She filed for divorce the next day, threatened to file an order of protection so that I would not contact people in her life, and then told me she could not forgive me for threatening to expose her. That's when I woke up. I've been drowning, undergoing hemorrhagic shock, and the hypothermia was creeping in. I've been desperately trying to get my wife on the shoreline to throw me a preserver. My actions caused her to get her feet wet, and she couldn't handle it. I started to understand who she was. Weak and cowardly. Not exactly life partner material. A few weeks later, I had a realization. It's like she died. That's when the pain and emptiness and anger felt like. I found out later that she was still in contact with one of her partners. Another punch in the gut. Anyways, that's why I'm here, and I applaud you if you've made it this far. Our divorce is underway and will hopefully be resolved cleanly. For the time being, things here are quiet, empty, and lonely. My schoolwork has suffered, and I'm thinking about taking some time off to process everything. Thanks for listening. Okay guys, Mr. Reddito here. So that story ended pretty wild. I do have 3 more updates I found on this story, but the main story's over now. These are like a sideline of the story. The first one we're going to look at is OP posted how to avoid cheaters in the future. What are some telltale signs someone has proclivity to cheat? Okay, let's check it out. I've been reflecting on this question more and more as I think about dating again. A few things have struck me in my past relationship as being red flags for cheating. Number 1 and number 2. My significant other would never ask me to do something. She would demand it. For example, when we first started dating, I was helping her hang some pictures. At one point, I was across the room and she flatly said, "Hand me the hammer." She didn't ask, she wasn't polite about it, and her tone indicated it was not a question, but a command. She felt a baseline of entitlement. Number 2. My significant other would always cheat during board games to win. Always. It got to the point where I could no longer play a board game with her without constant surveillance that she wasn't sneaking $500 from the bank during Monopoly, or miscalculating points during Phase 10. Again, something that screamed, the rules don't matter to me.